So things are getting weirder here in Los Angeles. And I mean, the LA is already a weird place to begin with. The pandemic, obviously the entire world's kind of twacked out right now. Well, not kind of, very twacked out. And in LA, I've noticed, I've lived in cities all over the country. And one thing that I've noticed about Los Angeles is when it rains, people seem to really freak out here. Like LA is weird to begin with, but rain makes it much, much weirder. Like tonight, we ordered some delivery food, Postmates or something, and the guy showed up in a yellow biohazard suit. He looked like Homer Simpson, like when he's working in the nuclear power plant. And he just like handed me the food. I was like, is the food okay, bro? And I could not. I couldn't make something like this up. He looks at me and he goes, "Follow me on Twitter." I was like, what the fuck? I've never heard a delivery guy say something like that. And I think that the whole world's going to be reduced to some like digital avatar. That's the only way to like be able to sustain our economy is everything's going to be, concerts are going to be streamed online. No one will be there. It's just like a chat room. And I mean, everything is just going to become digitalized, where there's no contact, at least for the next couple months, if the world doesn't come to an end. You remember I told you about a guy named Billy Young, some small dick Canadian guy. His dick is so small and have such a big whammer that I thought it would be funny to make stickers of his dick and just kind of coin a term, Billy Young, just start putting it on random cars and signs, just some little mischief. Well, everything else is falling apart. Kind of like, you remember in 2016 when we were having clown sightings? They'd be like, another clown was sighted in Denver. People would be like, whoa, that's weird. And then we never talked about it since. Everyone acts like it didn't happen. That's like the weirdest shit that's ever happened to us, ever. Some clown epidemic of 2016, like that's trippy. I think one even like killed someone somewhere. And we're like, whatever. It's whatever. It's not that big a deal. Where was I going with this? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Let's get into the story. Before that, let me explain something. I talked to someone last night who's a big supporter of mine, and he didn't understand how Patreon worked. Just so you guys know, Patreon is a monthly subscription service. Starts at $3 a month. The highest tier is $100 a month. You get different privileges for each tier, but you get extra content. So I'm about to do a series on there called Florida. It's about all my time that I spent in Florida. The Mike Virgin stuff, but my time in jail, rehab out there. A lot of stuff happened in Florida. So there'll be exclusive series that'll just stay on Patreon. I'll never put it on YouTube. So there's some incentives to do it. I do have a family to support. So come check out Patreon. Try it out. It only hurts the first time. Let's get into the story. Like, comment, subscribe. It's like the third time I've said that and not gotten into it. So here I am. I'm in Lompoc Federal Penitentiary in Santa Barbara County, same county that I grew up in. And I have a bandana on. I'm wearing boxers. And I have my mattress as a shield. And Hillbilly has the same thing. He's just down. He's like, I got you. Let's go. Fuck these pigs. I'm like, all right, let's go. And they dress up like Ninja Turtles. It's probably the only way that I can describe it, and you guys could like kind of know what I'm talking about. It's just what like a fencer wears with like that weird, it almost looks like this, the thing on the microphone. It's like some weird like night mask or something. Like they wear that, and then they have these like backpacks on, and one of them had a paintball gun with pepper in the paintballs. And they're like, do you refuse to cuff up, Leone? Just like they did when I was with Boots. And we're just like, yeah, fuck you. You can't do anything to us. And we have our bandanas on. We're like, yeah. I don't know. I forget what we said, but we're just, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Shoot us? You're not gonna shoot us. You're not gonna start shooting us with the pepper. And when you get hit with that, it hits your skin and it just starts burning. It literally feels like you're doused in gasoline, and it's like on fire. Like it stings because you get the welt, and then the welt, just starts stinging from the pepper that's inside of these paintballs. It's such a really painful feeling. And then it makes it like, makes your respiratory system, sting as well. I don't know if that's the proper term for it, but it makes it so that it's like hard to breathe. And you're like choking on, this like, I don't know how to describe it. It takes your breath away. I don't know if anybody's ever been maced, pepper sprayed. If you haven't, I definitely recommend that you try it. It's oodles of fun. But yeah, they just started. It was like some semi-automatic, paintball gun. It was like we put up our mattress as the shield, but it hardly did anything. And then we couldn't breathe. And then you just hear the door come open, and they just run in there, and they zip tie both of us. And we're like, I can't see anything. My eyes just completely slit because they're stinging so bad. I'm choking because whatever's in that pepper spray or mace ball that they shoot at you, like I said, it makes you choke. And I can't really see what's going on. I just kind of curl up in a ball, and like, I hear Hillbilly like fuck you, Dan Pig, fuck you, and one of them like, shut up, hit yourself with the rock again, pussy. And I'm just like, what? It's like two hicks fighting with each other, and it's like some secret world, lingo that they have. I don't even understand what they're saying. It's just these like two hicks arguing. One's a cop, one's a redneck, drug addict, bank robber kind of guy. And they zip tie us. So they put, our hands behind our back, and they zip tie both of us respectively. And I remember, like there's a CO on both sides, just kind of like ushering me down out of the cell and down the hall. And my eyes are slit because they're stinging so badly. And I kind of looking up, and I can just see other inmates, and I hear super duper 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 serio, like, stuff that I'd been hearing. There's also some black guys that I don't know if I ever brought up, but they'd be like, hey, Twan. And I just heard like, it was like this nightmarish reverberation of like all these different annoying things that would, constantly loop while you're in the hole, because, you have such little outside stimulation at that point, that these annoying idiosyncratic things that people, hey, Twan, super duper duper serio, and I'm like, I can just kind of make out these very like opaque looking, like, I could see like some like random black guy, and he looked all crazy and distorted and abstracted because my eyes are just like watering, and I can just hear all that stuff, super duper duper, and I'm just like, it was a nightmare. It's literally like, being in like a Darren Aronofsky film or something, in some weird David Lynch nightmare. And they end up taking me to some cage, and they just throw me in there, zip tied. And I just feel all this liquid going all over my face. I didn't know what it was. I was like, I hope that's not cop cum. And it's milk, I can taste this like spicy milk in my mouth. They're pouring milk, like old milk, all over my face to neutralize the burning of the pepper balls that had been, all over me. And I slowly start like being able to see again. And I'm like, okay, it's milk. It's not cop cum. Cool. But I'm like, hillbilly. He's like, stay strong, buddy. I was like, they get you with the milk. You get you with the milk. And I'm like, look, all right, I'll go on DS time. And they're like, well, thanks for volunteering, Leone. We're going to force you to go on it anyway. And you don't get anything. No radio, no books, no nothing. You're going to be punished for, trying to subvert the order of the COs or whatever. And so I'm just sitting there. They don't take the zip tie off. But, like I said, I'm regaining my vision very slowly. And I'm in a cage. So the way that I was like on the second tier at Lompoc. And, they hit me with milk, they're supposed to have you shower, but the shower from past experiences just, makes things much, much worse because, especially, I mean, if it's hot, because, hot water spreads the pepper spray or mace all over you. And it, everyone knows hot water opens your pores. So it seeps inside of you. So, you want to have a cold shower and you want to douse yourself in milk. So they had given us milk and it gave me some relief where I could, open my eyes. And I'm in a cage right next to Hillbilly, and, we're talking through the cages, and he's like, "You're a good man, Leone." He's like, "Don't forget." He's like, "All the woods of this spot are faking the funk. Bunch of, what do you call them? Bunch of featherwoods." That's usually what you call like a female peckerwood, a featherwood. He's like, "They're a bunch of featherwood bitches, no cocks." And I was like, "Yeah." And, we were all happy that we had become friends. First thing that I started tripping on is I think between us, we had about a half of an 8 milligram Suboxone strip back in the cell. Now, since they had done the extraction, that's what that's called when they come in to the cell and they remove you. If you're refusing to cuff up, if you're removing to leave, I was refusing to move from that cell under investigation with Hillbilly onto DS time, which is the disciplinary, wing of the whole. And they tend to keep you by yourself. Not always. Sometimes you have a cellie, but you can't have a radio, and sometimes you can't have books. It just depends, And now that I had refused, I was definitely going to get a bunch of consequences, like I didn't have anything coming, pretty much. And I was scared that they were going to find the Suboxone. And I was scared that my second book, June Gloom, it was a handwritten manuscript. That's what I was more worried that I had lost the manuscript to my second book than getting caught with a half of a Suboxone strip, which is 5 years in federal prison. But I cared way more about my writing. It's like 5 years I can do. I mean, this was definitely this was the pepper spray talking. I wasn't in my right mind. But I was really tripping about my manuscript. So, what do? Just turn into a complete bitch. I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. I'm calling him sir. I'm like, "Hey, man, did you guys grab my folder that says June Gloom?" And they're like, "All your properties go into R&D. So I'm like kind of thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm sure they searched my cell. They probably didn't find, the Suboxone, because we would have already known about it. And, Hillbilly and I are talking, and they end up taking me to, like a observation cell, kind of like, where you would go, I guess if you're on suicide watch or if you're having some sort of psychotic breakdown. And it's very, like medieval in an observation cell in the hole. This is different than like a potty watch, where there's like some like, bucket in the middle and like some camera in the corner. In an observation cell in special housing unit, at least at this particular one, it was a big slab of concrete in the middle, and it had these, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like these little metallic squares that were attached to the concrete slab, and you could be chained to it. It looked like some sort of sex dungeon. I was like, fuck yeah. Shoot it. They're like, what? No, I didn't say that. But, so they take my zip tie off. They end up cuffing me to this slab, and I'm still hurting. I have welts all over me because I got hit with this semi-automatic paintball gun. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, yeah, you got a few days where you can think about what a piece of shit, scumbag, drug addict, convict you are. I was like, I'm none of those things. And they just slammed the door, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm chained to the slab. I felt like Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi. All right, I didn't really feel like that. Anyway, so I thought I was going to be in there for a few days, and I'm yelling. I'm like, I have mental health issues. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. And then, like, once in a while, a CO would come by and he'd be like, how you going to do that, bud? And he's right. I was just completely chained to this slab. I couldn't even move. I was like, in the upright position. There's nothing I could do. It was like some straight up torturous shit, and I thought they were going to leave me in there for a few days, but they end up coming, making me cuff up, and they take me to the DS wing. This is probably after about 7 or 8 hours of me just sitting upright, chained to the slab. Still high on Suboxone, by the way. So it wasn't all bad. But, I'm hurting, I'm stinging, my eyes hurt, my throat hurts. I mean, anyone that's ever been maced, I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like, this stuff gets inside of you and you're just like, ugh. And then when you're chained, like, being chained like that and having like an itch on your nose is like, I can't even describe something that drives you more nuts. It's like you go through a complete psychological like freak out. It's probably, you're just like, and eventually you have to just use your mind to focus and like, psychically itch it. Like you think about it for long enough and you actually feel the relief of it itching, and mind you, I was in the hole for a dirty drug test. It's not like they're treating me like I'm fucking Hannibal Lecter. I mean, I just, it's absurd. I think that someday we'll look back on how nonviolent drug offenders were treated in prison, just generally with the prison industrial complex. It's about social immobility, and then when they warehouse nonviolent drug offenders and the mentally ill, it makes you way more drug addicted and more mentally ill than you were before you got in there. I wasn't even a violent guy. Jeff, my best friend Jeff, had done an interview on Patreon about me. And, I'd asked people on Patreon, just like when Karina did an interview, I said, hey, you guys can ask him anything. And somebody had asked Jeff if he had noticed any changes about me after my first 5 years in prison. And he said that he definitely noticed how much more violent I was. I came out and I was aggressive because I wasn't, like a violent kid growing up. I was like scared of fighting. I didn't like fighting. I would do it here and there for attention, but I certainly like, I was the kind of guy where like, I was pretty freaked out. Like if I was at a party and I knew someone wanted to beat me up, which was pretty common, because I had a big mouth and I fucked a lot of people that didn't like its girlfriends, and that's generally why people get mad at me in high school, and never did that to my friends. But, generally if people had issues with me, it was that over that kind of stuff. It's just like a total piece of shit, fucking didn't really care about anything kind of guy, just super selfish. And it got me in a lot of trouble. And I used to be really scared of that. But when I got out of prison after doing my 5 years the first time, it was amazing, like how much more aggressive I'd gotten. And this particular situation is one of many that I think contributed to that aggression, and I don't think I deserve that kind of treatment. But anyway, they end up bringing me to DS, Disciplinary Sanction Section of the Special Housing Unit. And I think I had, 3 weeks left, 20 days, something like that. And, they end up putting me in there and I had the cell to myself. Now, at first, you like it. It's a jack shack. At first, it's like, how much masturbating can I get done in here? What can I, I'm going to hang upside down from my bunk and I'm going to beat off like a fucking vampire. I don't even care. And then all that stuff gets played out. It gets gimmicky and you're like, fuck. And then you start talking to yourself, as we've talked about many, many times. And I don't know if that's normal. I think that I'm probably just some sort of weird J-Cat schizo kind of guy. I don't know if, because you always hear people like, the most time I ever did in solitary confinement was 60 days. And it broke me. I got sober for 3 years. The dope fiend on my level, it got me sober for 3 years because I had just a complete, mental collapse at that point. And, you hear people, I did 3 years in the hole. I did 25 years in the hole. Okay, cool. I can't handle a week in the hole makes me go crazy. And, just 3 weeks of it, not having a book, not having a radio, um, and, marathon masturbation. Serious masturbation with like plot lines and like subplots and like cliffhangers. Like you're just about to come and you're like, to be continued. And then you stop for like 15 minutes, like tease yourself, and then you go right back to it. Like weirdo shit. And I'm not saying this to be funny. This is what happens when you're someone like me that's already a weirdo and you get put in complete isolation like that. So, um, I couldn't, when I was on the DS section of the hole, I couldn't talk to anyone. Like there were Southsiders that were like 20 fucking feet away from me. 20 feet. No, they were very far. I don't know how far. 20 cells down. Like I was like in this corner and I couldn't talk to anybody. Like, and if I like I could scream out of my door and like I could barely hear somebody. I didn't even know who they were. I don't know if they were Southsiders or not. But I was pretty much in complete isolation, and I found a fishing line in my cell. So I knew that if anybody came anywhere near me, because there were cells on both sides of me, they weren't occupied. They put me literally by myself, like in the corner of this tier where I was by myself. But I found this fishing line, so I knew that if somebody came, I'd be able to like fish stuff. Now I didn't have any coffee. Now I didn't have any of my Suboxone. I've been doing Suboxone for like long enough where I was gonna feel sick to some degree. And I was in this like hardcore hillbilly designed militant workout program. Now I could still go to rec 5 days a week. You could go on the weekdays. So I was hoping that I would be able to, talk to other people during that time. But I went out like 3 or 4 times and I found that they took DS people out at different times than they would take like the investigation people or the people that checked in. So like they'd take me out to those kennel cages and I'd be by myself, and it's like 5:30 in the morning, freezing cold. You don't have a jacket, you don't have a beanie. You're just in your little jumpsuit and it's freezing. It is freezing. So I just stopped going and I started, just being enveloped in this solitude, which started driving me crazy. Now, around this time, and I didn't know what was going on the yard. I didn't know if, Hillbilly had really gotten my debts paid. I had no idea. I had no idea what was going on. I had no contact with the yard. I had no contact with Hillbilly, and I started feeling really sick. First, like 3 or 4 days. And it's not the kind of dope sick where, if you have a real habit. I mean, I'm doing a milligram of Suboxone for like 10 days, 14 days. You don't kick like you would with like a traditionally big habit, but you still feel discomfort. You have the sketchy farts, and that's cool when you're by yourself, because like every time you do it, you just yank your pants down and right on the toilet and just spray it. Like, it looks like it sneezes. It looks like it sneezes shit onto the metallic toilet bowl. It's like mucusy, dope sick, Suboxone shit. And I know if you've done it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I had a headache, and I had the hot and cold flashes, but mainly it was just depression. And I think there's a level of PTSD from the first time that I'd done 60 days where my grandfather had died. When I was in Wisconsin, I did 60 days in solitary confinement because I got a dirty for heroin out there. And like I've talked about it several times, I had just a complete mental breakdown, and I came out and I was like, no way am I doing drugs again. It was a good thing, but there was lingering psychological issues. I had separation anxiety. I became way more jealous, way more controlling, way more paranoid, which ultimately became being emotionally abusive to different girlfriends, my fiance, then my wife, and definitely more paranoid. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, being in solitude for 60 days, where the only thing that you can rely on, or that you can use for entertainment, is masturbating, working out to a small degree, because there's only so much you can do when you're working out in the hole, when you have limited caloric intake. It's not like you can work out super hard because you'll get emaciated, because you go into a caloric deficit. But you'd work out, masturbate, and then this just intense introspection where you start thinking about everything. And there's some therapeutic value to it, but there's also bad psychological problems that stem from that. And I still have them to this day, although I think I've worked out a lot of them. And during that time, I was really hoping that I'd get mail. Now, I said in the last video that a girl named Rachel had started writing me, or she wrote me one letter, and I was like all stoked because it was a girl who I'd always be like, hey, send me butthole shots, and she'd be like, no, but I kind of want to. I'd be like, really? And she'd be like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. And then she ended up writing me, and I thought she was like being flirtatious. She sent me a Bukowski quote, and then she started talking about her boyfriend. But I started clinging on to the hope that, maybe I could make something happen. I mean, I spent like 10 hours like tweaking out on my response, like coming out with like these flowery adjectives, like writing some super romantic, like, F. Scott Fitzgerald corny ass shit, thinking that might work. And, and then I was very shocked when I didn't get a letter back. She probably got spooked out. She was probably like, oh my God, what a creep. Sounds like a stalker. Another thing is my parents, especially my dad, my mom too, but my dad, whenever I'm in the hole, he feels so bad for me. He can't, I know it's hot in here. My wife has the heater just cranked right now because it's raining outside. It's all shitty out. But my dad gets very empathetic when I'm in the hole. And now that I'm a father myself, I can definitely see where he's coming from. You don't want your son, you don't want your child to be treated like a fucking animal, to be locked into some little, people always, when you hear hole and you like haven't been to prison, you think it's Shawshank style hole, where like, you're depleted of daylight, there's like, you're just in a dark place, like on the ground, and like, they like open the door and like your face is illuminated and you're just like, you're all pale, sitting in the corner. That's what people think the hole is. Hole, you're just in a cell by yourself or with a cellie. Sucks. But it's definitely not Shawshank level suck, I mean, maybe there are places like that, but, so that's what my dad would think, and I'd try to be like, no, Dad, that's not what it's like. He did send me thong shots, so, I mean, in that really, but I didn't have anyone to trade them to at that point. I was just like, fuck, but I had a lot of fun with those. A lot. I mean, we role played. Sometimes I'd be the chick. Thong shot would talk to me. I'd be like, damn, it's cute turquoise thong. Oh, you've got great tits, Ryan. I'd be like, thank you, Amy. Just going crazy in there. I'm fucking nuts. I'm already mentally unhinged. The whole just makes me way weirder. But my dad's good about writing me every day, so I'd always look forward to his letters. And he also would send me articles that he thought were interesting. Not just articles. Sometimes he'd send me like quotes by Hunter S. Thompson, or just interesting stuff to read. He'd send me like music festival lineups, just stuff that I could like tweak out on while I was in there. And his best friend is an attorney. His name is Mush. That's his nickname. And Mush is actually like one of the leading advocates for prisoners' rights in the country, just coincidentally. And that's one of my dad's childhood friends. And he's an attorney. He did some pro bono work for me when I caught my original Fed case. And he would go above and beyond. He would write me every day. I mean, just write me, hey, I'm thinking of you, and just throw it in the mail. But getting stuff like that when you're in the hole, it makes your entire week. So my dad and his best friend and my mom would write me pretty frequently. And then I had Rachel write me that one time. My friend Ashley wrote me, but we're platonic friends. I didn't even entertain the notion that it was anything besides that. I was really just clinging on to the fact that Rachel might write me back, and I'm always waiting. And, my ex-wife had sent me that Dear John letter, so I'm stewing in that. And then I get a letter from my best friend Jeff that just completely fucks my brain up. I have it on my cell phone. I had him send this to me, before I started doing this video. So, I hadn't gotten a letter from him the whole time that I'd been in the hole. I think he had written me a number of times before I went to the hole. And then I told my dad, like, hey, have Jeff write me. So he writes me this letter. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he starts talking about my ex-wife. Now, remember I told you about my my neighbor at my complex that turned out to be a sex offender? He was a black guy. So, while I was still on the compound at Lompoc, a couple times I'd called and she was like hanging out with the guy, but she wasn't telling me about it. Her son would be like, oh, so-and-so's over here. And I'd be like, what the fuck? What are you doing with that weirdo? She'd be like, oh, my wife would be like, you are so paranoid. You are so racist. It's because he's black. I'm like, it's not because he's black. What the fuck are you talking about? I have a bunch of black friends. I'm prejudiced because he's a fucking sex offender, dude. He's a child molester. Why are you hanging out? Why are you putting that dude in front of your fucking kid? She's like, he's helping me. You're selfish. Click. So, I'm already a tripper, so I start thinking like, oh my God, like she's probably fucking the black guy, the black sex offender guy. So this is what my best friend Jeff writes me. Well, right at this period, while I'm on DS time in solitary confinement at Lompoc in 2017. So he writes me a letter, and he's talking about how him and his girlfriend just broke up. She's a girl that I didn't like much. And he goes, okay. I know you understand as you have your own, and he's talking about his girlfriend, and now he's talking about my wife. Like, I have my own version of his ex-girlfriend, which is my wife, to deal with. And it's not an easy thing. It's hard when you care about someone that treats you like shit and doesn't even realize it. I know you're going through it with her. I heard from a friend that she changed her name back on Facebook. So she had changed her name from having Leonie as her last name back to her maiden name. I didn't know that. This is the first time that, that I'm hearing about it. He said she had changed her name back on Facebook. I checked it out, and she did. I also heard that she's been posting pics with other guys. Now, getting something like that, even though it was over, even though I accepted the relationship was over, it's like putting a fucking dagger in your heart, especially when you're in solitude and all you have to do is think about shit like this. I was told that she had some new pictures up with her and some black dude. Oh, wait. I checked it out, and she did. I also heard she's been posting pics with other guys. I'm not friends with her, so I can't see anything. I was told that she had some new pictures up with her and some black dude. The black guy has his arm around her. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to read it. I put the letter down, paste, beat off a couple times, came back. I was like, he goes, I assume that if it's true, it must be your old neighbor that you had asked not to give drugs to her. That shady dude you said wanted her. Because, he would be like, she ain't bad looking. She ain't bad looking. He may have gotten her, and she may have gotten over her racism. Because on top of all the other wonderful attributes, she was a racist piece of shit. Who would always spout out racist shit, like, Mexicans are so lazy. She didn't talk like that, but that's how I hear racist people talk in my mind. Mexicans are so lazy. Oh my God, I hate them. I hate them because they're not us. I hate them. I hate blacks. I hate gay. I hate them all. She would say stuff like that, just not in that voice. She'd be like, I hate black people. He may have gotten her, and she may have gotten over her racism. I'm not sure about the dude, but I am sure that she changed her name. Ryan, I hope you're truly done with that broad. She has done nothing but bring you down, bring you pain, bring you nothing, and she's taken everything. She is a piece of shit mother that honestly, I hope her kid gets taken from her. You deserve a real woman that loves you. Someone like, and he says, Casey, my ex. The one that I said that I was talking to before, I'd gone in, and then her AA sponsor had said, stop talking to him. He's a junkie. You deserve someone like Casey, which isn't even her real name. That's just the alias I use when I tell stories at it, just to protect her identity. He said, not Casey, though, as she is in a new relationship and looks super happy. So this is like a double fucked up letter. I'm like, oh my God, black sex offender has his arm around my ex-wife. Oh my God, the girl whose hope I was clinging on to that I might have a chance with again is, in a new relationship and looking super happy. I hope that when you get out, you really work on yourself this time. Your art needs more attention as you need to produce your stories. Energy needs to be directed more than ever. This is a long time before I did YouTube or anything. He's just telling me that I should be like putting stories out there more. Energy needs to be directed more than ever. We're not getting any younger, my friend. The time is now if you ever wish to take it to the next level. And it's about time you do, Ryan. Anyways, you get out in a week or so, and I hear you'll be in Santa Barbara for a little bit. When you're out, we'll have to get our burpees on and hit the weight pile again. I now have a full gym at my place. Jesse brought over his pull-up dip station as well as bench, rack, and weights. Now we can legit get jacked again. Stay strong, bud. You'll be over at my place before we know it. You'll be getting some weird, scandalous sex soon enough. Just hope you don't pay for it. LOL. Hit me up when you get here and you are with your parents. I'll see you sooner than later. Love you, bud. Your best friend, Jeff. Which was cool, obviously there are things in that letter that I didn't like, but it's still good to know that you're loved, when you're doing time, especially when you're in the hole. So, I was showered in love from my parents, from my dad's best friend, and then my dad's best friend, Mush's son, was working like at a rehab in New York, and he did something really cool. He had all these people, guys and girls, just write one thing that they, he handed out little index cards, and he said, hey, my dad's friend's son is in solitary confinement in federal prison. Can everyone write something on these different index cards to cheer him up? So I got it was like getting 30 letters from different people, in one day, which I always thought was a really, really cool thing for him to do. So, I had some cool stuff going on, and aside from losing my mind, I really just didn't really know what was going on in the yard, and I just kept working out by myself. I'd write my parents letters, and I started kind of just thinking everything out, getting closure both on my ex-wife and Casey. Just accepting that relationship was over and, that it wasn't salvageable. Because I really thought that we were going to get back together. And then writing June Gloom, I started thinking about her more. And we were already talking before I went in there. So, eventually, I'm, like you said in that letter, I was about a week from getting out when I got that. And, I just kept working out. And then the days started getting really slow. I'd be like, okay, I have 7 in a wake up. I have 6 in a wake up, 5 in a wake up, 4 in a wake up. And then it was already, it was already time for me to leave. I went to sleep the night before, barely, maybe got an hour or two of sleep. And I remember, I had all my stuff ready to go, all my letters. I had everything ready to go. And thought I was going to get out at 8 in the morning. And they didn't come get me, the guards didn't come get me until about 11. So I was already tripping, I must have a warrant, because remember they had said I had a warrant for the DUI, even though I thought we had gotten that cleared up. And then, who knows what my ex mother-in-law had done. She'd already tried to keep me in there. Who knows what kind of outlandish shit she could have made up to them. But they came, they got me, and they brought me to R&D to dress out. I didn't have dress out clothes like I did the first time, but I did run into one of the white guys that was from the compound, one of the Peckerwoods, and he saw me and he was friendly to me, shook my hand. He's like, hey man, good to see you. And I asked him if my debts got cleared, and I told him about Hillbilly and everything. And he said, yeah, You know, he said that my atomic fireballs ended up going out there, and I guess Hillbilly's wife did what he said she was going to do. You know, he had sent $100 just to go towards paying my bills, and I left that yard on good terms. So I was in R&D. They dressed me in some super corny like Wrangler jeans and like some like weird Velcro shoes and like a white polo shirt, and I had like a beard because I'd been in the hole and I just had stopped shaving. I looked like a total fucking weirdo. But I was just so excited to get out, and they let me go. And that was my second time in federal prison. A lot happened in a little 90-day period, you know. They almost had me stab a sex offender. I could have caught in a life sentence for it. I met Big Meech. I mean, even though I didn't have too many interactions with the guy, he did give me a pair of Nike Cortezes, and I did get to meet him in a federal prison setting, only to get out and find out truly how legendary he was, you know. And looking back, it's just kind of a trip that I crossed paths with him at that particular time. He just happened to be at Lompoc in February, March of 2017, and I got to spend a little bit of time with him. I didn't really know what the future held. Jeff had written me a pretty optimistic letter, you know, like, hey, when you get back to Santa Barbara, it's not going to be bad. Like, we can start working out again, get healthy. You can focus on being an artist, putting stories out there, writing, whatever, and get it out of your head that, you know, you have any future with Casey, because that was like some obsession I had while I was in there. And boy, was he wrong about that. You know, but we can get into all that in the next series. And then don't forget that I did an actual term again. And I caught a case very quickly after I got out of prison, this time for pimping and pandering. We will get into all of that in the new series. I'll also be doing the Florida series on Patreon. I appreciate every single one of you. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Palabra.